We got a little bit of a different setup today. Welcome to the Nolan Show live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, you know what we're talking about today. A lot of New York sports, obviously. Mostly baseball, mostly New York Mets, because the Mets stink and the Yankees are 21-11 since May 1st. And the Mets, well, they're the complete opposite. 15-18 since May 1st. We got the Subway Series coming up next week, so I feel like it is a good time to compare both of these teams. And also the New York Mets, obviously, coming into the biggest series of the year so far against the Atlanta Braves. Right now, we sit just 5.5 games back, so it's not like we are completely out of the race. And I've been seeing tweets, I've been seeing Facebook posts, I've been hearing radio shows talking about Buck Showalter, talking about Francisco Lindor. So here we are going to talk about not Lindor. Stylo's mom says, no, Lindor is not overrated. On to the next one. So clearly, a lot of people do not like my takes on Francisco Lindor. That's not surprising considering they're New York Mets fans. And let's face it, when you hear shade thrown on your player, you want to defend them. That's naturally what you do. Now, when people ask me, well, who else would you want as shortstop? No one. Francisco Lindor is still a top 5 shortstop, arguably a top 3, sometimes playing like the best shortstop in baseball. We all know that he has stretches where he is the best shortstop in baseball. And then you see across the last 15 games where he's hitting under 170 across his last 15 games. And you're like, this guy is the worst shortstop in baseball. And now we all know he's not. But we're Mets fans. We're New York fans. That's what we do. We overreact. So before I throw all the shade on Lindor, I'm going to throw some shade on other guys that deserve it. Number one, over Lindor, like if we're going to play the blame game right now, I'm blaming Buck Showalter. Because I get Lindor is struggling right now. Stars struggle. We've seen it all the time. David Wright sucked for a little bit sometimes. Jose Reyes sucked for a little bit sometimes. Beltran sucked his first year with the Mets. Edwin Diaz was terrible for a couple years with the Mets. And then he became the best closer in baseball. Now, am I saying Lindor is going to be better than Aaron Judge next year? No. But I'm saying he's got 7 years to turn it around. I will admit that. But right now, he's not providing what you want out of your 3-hitter. Now, your 9-hitter, Francisco Alvarez, I mean, I don't know. Why is he hitting 9th every day? He batted 2nd for a couple of days, and then what happened? We moved him right back down to the 9 hole. What is that? So before I do get into Lindor, I'm going to pop up this question. When are we putting Buck Showalter on the hot seat? Because it's not just every day that you're like every day, yeah, you question the lineup. And it's not because of the same things. Like, all right, Alonso bats 4th. Lindor, he's in his usual spot. Nimmo, obviously, he should be the leadoff hitter. But McNeil's always floating around back and forth, which is just like, he was the batting champion last year. I think he deserves a set spot in the lineup. Now, when you see a guy like Lindor struggling, now it feels like Buck is kind of being a softie. Now, I'm not saying just bench Lindor. You know, I overreacted yesterday, I'll admit it, and I put out, let's bench Lindor. Don't bench him. Give him a day off, maybe. Maybe he does need a day off. I mean, you saw it. He was terrible in that series against Toronto. So maybe he needs a day off. Now, I'm not saying you move him down all the way to like 6th, 7th, or 8th in the lineup. You could bat him still in the top 5. Now, I put out my lineup today, my ideal lineup. My ideal lineup features Ronnie Mauricio first. The fact that he's not up yet is just stupid. That's Billy and Epler or Buck Showalter, honestly acting like Art Howe here. Like, that's what we're considering Buck Showalter as. And he was the manager of the year last year. So, obviously, I put out a couple tweets the other day, all the expectations. Because the Lindor contract, who cares about that? The contract will be worth it. It ends before he's 40. I'm talking about the expectations. When Lindor came here, he had high expectations. Same thing with Buck Showalter. He came here with all this credibility except one thing: he couldn't win the World Series. Similar to, Lindor obviously doesn't have the huge track record that Buck has, but Lindor was there. He was in the World Series and he obviously lost. But Buck, the big thing for him, you haven't got the ring yet. So you come here and you want to prove that. You want to prove that you still are what people think you are, and you want to get the job done. And simply, like last year, CPNY, shout out Chris, all the time. He always talks about it. 101 wins last year. Who cares? Who cares? Because at the end of the day, we were right there at the end of the race. And then in the last 3 days, we fell flat on our faces. And then against the San Diego Padres, we had another chance to at least erase that part, put that in the bag, throw it away in the trash. But instead, they go out and get one hit in game 3 against the San Diego Padres. So Buck, even dating back to last season, has some question marks thrown on his head. And now that we're 30-30, we got to start throwing question marks at him. We have to. Against Atlanta, if we go 1-2, if we get swept, I think we really have to start having this conversation a lot more and be a lot more serious about this conversation. Buck Showalter should be on the hot seat right now, and especially if we get roughed up in the Atlanta series, I think for sure you have to put Buck Showalter on the hot seat. For sure. Getting a call right now. We're going to answer it. What's up? Is this Sunny Days in Flushing?
Yeah, how we doing, James?
How we doing? Thanks for calling, man. Always appreciate it. What's up? What's on your mind?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, first of all, I don't know if you have an issue with your YouTube. I'm looking on the link and it wasn't coming up, so I wasn't sure if you had started the show. But I don't know if maybe that's just me.
Yeah, maybe. It might be lagging. I'm in like a new spot right now, so I might be having some issues.
All right. Yeah, I didn't get to hear the beginning of your show, so I'm not sure if you had already touched on Lindor or Buck, but my 2 cents, I think Buck should be on the hot seat. I think there's a team that should be above 500 right now. They're not. They've had injuries, but everyone's had injuries. You can't really keep using that as an excuse. And the way he's used these young kids is concerning, and the talent evaluation of the young kids is concerning. Mm-hmm. And that's probably more of an indictment on the entire organization.
Yeah.
But everything we've been told about these kids just seems to be wrong and flawed. Francisco Alvarez was ready. He didn't need to start the season down in the minors.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Beatty was ready. He didn't need to start down in the minors. So that's concerning from a team building standpoint.
Yeah, 100%. So, and do you think I don't know, I feel like Lindor, he's kind of been underperforming, but can we put some of that on Buck too?
I think what you could put on Buck, because ultimately the guys have to perform. Like, that's on them. Especially a guy like Lindor. You're not talking about a young kid. You're talking about a guy that's almost 30. He's making the money. We all know about the money. Like, this is a guy that needs to be self-motivated, and he's got to be able to figure it out kind of on his own.
Yeah, I feel.
Buck needs to drop him down the lineup. I mean, when a guy's struggling like this, you can't keep putting him out there second, third, and just assume that things are going to work out. Like, when Lindor is a streaky guy. We know that from his first 2 years. The highs are really high, and the lows can get pretty low. And he'll only get through that if he's playing, but he's not going to get through that at a second, killing this team.
Yeah,
let
I feel.
Him figure it out down at 6 or 7. Don't let him figure it out at 2, because that's hurting these teams' opportunities.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, he's a vet, he's a leader, he's got to learn to figure it out, but he gets it. Like, I don't think the booing is like, whatever, I mean, that's what we do in New York. I can't really stand it, but he gets it. He gets it, and, like, the people that are, like, idiots, I'm going to call them idiots. Like, you're calling for them to cut this guy or trade him. Like, he's an all-star. He's an all-star. He hasn't particularly played like one his first year. His second year, I would say he did to an extent. But, like, to compare him to Jimenez, they're two different guys. Jimenez is probably always going to have the higher average, but Lindor has the opportunity to put the ball over the fence at any given moment.
Yeah, I
Can't
feel.
forget that.
Yeah, I feel. I think at the end of the contract, it'll definitely will be saying it's worth it. But I think for sure he has some question marks thrown at him, and he definitely does need to improve. And I definitely agree. I don't think Buck, throwing him out there in the 3-hole every day is necessarily a good thing. Maybe let him bat in between Beatty and Alonso. Maybe, let him earn that spot, because at the end of the day, he has the ability to be, I was talking about a little bit before, when he is on these consistent stretches, he is playing like the best shortstop in baseball. So when he is like that, he should 100% be in the 3 spot. But we haven't seen that yet all year. So I think, like you said, if we can kind of let him get going down a little bit lower in the lineup, I'm not sure about 6 and 7. I was thinking more the 5 spot for him, right after Alonso. And yeah, I think that would really benefit him. I think it would benefit the lineup also, moving Francisco Alvarez potentially up. I'm not sure what you think about that. Him always batting 9th in the lineup. And with Omar Narvaez coming back, do you think Alvarez is going to be seeing the playing time that he's been seeing, or do you think that Narvaez is going to start stealing away the at-bats? And do you think that, we should be worried about that?
I would hope not. And the fact that it was even a discussion all over SNY, all over Twitter, as to who they were going to keep, I think that was crazy. Like,
yeah.
Listen, I'll admit, I was one of the people saying, like, hey, maybe we find a way to hold on to Ito for a little bit, and maybe we can trade him, given how bad catchers are, especially in National League. Other than, like, Sean Murphy and Alvarez, there's not a lot of, like, notable good catchers that could field and hit. So there may have been a market for Ito. But the fact that it was even a discussion is crazy, because Alvarez has earned his spot.
Yeah.
He's hitting for power. He's done his job defensively. Kid's 21 years old, and he's handled his pitching staff so well. And it's a true testament when all of these guys, Max, Justin, night after night, are saying great things about him.
Yeah,
So
the guys
he should be batting higher than that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. When the guys were coming out there and saying, defending him, it kind of alarmed me a little bit, because when you see some things in the media, sometimes you see players stay quiet because they know it's just a bunch of, like, hot clickbait stuff like that Andy Martino puts out. But it seemed like this one they took a little bit personal. Do you think that maybe somewhere in the clubhouse, maybe even Buck, because we know he is very hard on these young players, do you think that maybe that there was any suspicion among the players that he actually could have been sent down?
I think there definitely was.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem with Buck.
My message to Mets, and also I don't want to take up all your time, so whenever
Nah,
you ever
man.
got somebody else, just let me know. That's why I'm on my way home, so I can talk forever.
Yeah, all good. I love it.
My message to Met fans is the grass is not always greener on the other side in terms of Lindor. We forget how rough that shortstop position has looked pretty much since Jose Reyes left.
Yeah.
Like the first time around. Like, is Francisco the hitter we thought we were going to get? But this is a guy that, like, the best ability is availability. And knock on wood, he plays through injuries. Like, he's always there. And he's a guy that's, especially now that they've got rid of the shift, he's like a vacuum at shortstop. Does he make his mistakes? Sure. But for the most part, he's saved a ton of runs for us since he's got here, and especially this year.
I feel.
We forget how bad that could look.
Yeah, I feel. We had like Ahmed Rosario hyped up. He was nothing special. I remember we had Gavin Cecchini at one point. Ruben Tejada. Oh, Jesus. We were in a rough spot for a lot of years. So definitely, I think Lindor even showed it. I know Nelson from the Amish Country Mets page, he always alludes to the fact that Lindor is a second half guy. and that we shouldn't be even worried one bit at all because he thinks he's definitely going to get it going. And, I got to give him credit. You look at his second half stats, especially after July last year, he hit over 290. He had that OPS well over 800. He had the majority of his home runs actually in the first half, which is something interesting. But he was definitely doing a lot better in the second half. Even though the home runs weren't higher, he was definitely a much better of a pure hitter. And he had more of his RBIs, obviously, in the second half, too, and more of the extra base hits. So hopefully he can get it going soon. And he does kill the Yankees, so the Yankees series coming up. So, what are you looking forward to in this Atlanta Braves series, though, outside of the Subway Series coming up, though? Just give me your three, biggest things to look for this series.
I want to see Buck managing for today.
Yes.
Not tomorrow, not the day after. Manage for today. If you have an opportunity to win today, you go and win today. Don't try to save bullpen guys for the next day or whatever. Go and win today. That's one. Two, I'd like to see the starters go 6 innings. We all know that stat. If they go 6 innings or more, we win the game. I believe we're undefeated if the starter goes into the 6th. Or goes 6.
100%.
Give me consistent offense. Get guys on base. It was ridiculous that we lost that game yesterday and we put 3 balls over the fence. Every one of those balls that went over the fence was a solo shot. That's ridiculous. That's been the biggest difference between last year and this year. Last year, they had a great approach at the plate. They found by any means necessary to get on base. This year, they're like fishing. They're looking for the right pitch. Their eye is horrific. I mean, Danny Vogelback, we don't even have to talk about that guy striking out. Fucking I'm sorry, excuse my language.
All good.
So that's what I want to see, man. If you could get these starters to go late in the game, and you could just keep getting on base, you'll win this series. Because you can't tell me that the Braves have more talent on their roster than we do. You can't tell me that Snicker is a far better manager than Showalter. A lot of things are equal. The Braves just have a better record because they're executing, and we aren't.
Yep, 100%. I think once we start executing, everything will start to pull together, especially with runners in scoring position. We just got to get those runners in scoring position, like you said, get back to last year's mentality. But I really appreciate you coming on, and you're going live later tonight with Chris, right?
I'm not sure. I think Chris said we were going to go Wednesday.
Wednesday? Got it. So I'll make sure to tune in for that. But if you want to quick plug in your Twitter and your everything that you got going, Sunny Days in Flushing, the blog over there, I saw you got it going really well right now. So if you want to give yourself a quick little plug, go ahead and give yourself a quick shout out.
Yeah, I appreciate it, James. I have a blog, Sunny Days in Flushing, on Twitter. We're at FlushingSunny41. It's a New York sports-based blog. And I do some stuff with Chris over at what's his ad? It's like CP Sports. Yeah,
CPNY Sports.
CPNY Sports. Yeah, so I do a lot of live stuff with him now. But we have a blog, and I try. It's tough with work and stuff, but I try to put out two blogs a week. So look out for that. If you get a chance, give me a follow. And James, thank you so much for the time, man. I appreciate it.
Man, thank you for calling, man. I appreciate that even more.
Thank you. Be well.
Thanks, man. You too. That was Sunny Days in Flushing on the phone. Make sure you give him a quick follow on Twitter, and make sure you not follow, but head to the website, sunnydaysfromflushing.com. He's got a good blog going on over there. A lot of good stuff. His recent post was May 30th, and like he said, he's going to be putting out 2 articles per week right now, and he's definitely going to try to get a little bit more in. But even with me, dude, I've been doing my pods only here and there now because with work and everything, it's getting a little hard. Just got a new job, just moved up to the new apartment, got the new green screen in the background because we don't got the in-home studio in the attic anymore. But we're working we're working. So let's continue on, though, because we did obviously put a lot of it on Buck Showalter, as you heard Sunny Days in Flushing talk about it. Buck Showalter is really the guy that we're going to be looking at in this series the most. The lineup decisions, pitching. You heard him say it when we have a starter go over 6 innings. That's when we're at our best. It's pitching. You look at the Mets ERA this season. What was it? It's over a 4. It's a 4.49 total, bullpen and starters. Now I get it. Edwin Diaz we lost, so that's going to be a little hard. Oh, almost knocked the camera over. But I get it. We lost Edwin Diaz. I get it. We don't have Jacob deGrom anymore, Chris Bassett. We don't have, Taijuan Walker, but we still have Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Kodai Senga. We still have Carlos Carrasco, who's going to be on the mound one of these games. So it's a little bit worrisome if you're a Mets fan, because the pitching kind of, the best way to put it has just been lackadaisical, lazy. I think that's the best way to put it. Verlander didn't even start the first half of the season. Not the first half of the season, but the majority of the first part of the season. He didn't come out. I'm not saying he's lazy for that, but I mean, can we stop with feeling that, like, even when Buck Showalter talks after the games, he's talking like the Mets are fine. Like, we're not fine. We're 30-30. We're at 500. Stop trying to brush away every single problem. It's a problem when Kodai Senga is inconsistent. It's a problem when Francisco Lindor is hitting third every day and he's batting .213. It's a problem when Francisco Alvarez has been one of the best catchers since May 1st and he's hitting ninth every single day. It's a problem when Daniel Vogelback is getting more at-bats over Mark Vientos. There's so many problems that Buck Showalter is providing. We could say this player is not performing, this player is not performing, that player is not doing this, that player is not doing that. But at the end of the day, all of them stem up to one main tree trunk. And that tree trunk is old man Buck Showalter. Maybe it's because he's old and he's just in his ways and he's saying, I want to prove myself right. I'm not sure. Last year, he didn't seem like that manager. But and then I also heard the take too that maybe Buck doesn't want to move Lindor down to like 5 or 6 because he feels pressure on Steve Cohen that he has to make sure that's a bunch of bull crap. It's just a bunch of bull crap because one, we have to, like Sunny Days in Flushing said, Buck Showalter has to stop managing for tomorrow or next week or next month. We have to start managing for today. What's the best lineup today? We don't care about killing Daniel Vogelback's confidence or killing Pete Alonso's confidence or killing Starlin Marte got moved down in the lineup. And what Eduardo Escobar lost his job. And what are those two? Marte's been picking it up a little bit. And Escobar's picking it up a little bit. Now, I'm not saying we have to just bench Lindor and Alonso and make McNeil and Nimmo the top two guys. No. But we can move Lindor 5th. Alonso, probably you want to keep him in that cleanup spot. He hit the home run the other night. He's 21 home runs on the year. He's got an OPS over 850. So you want to keep him up there. But Lindor, why not bat him 5th? Why not bat Beatty 6th? And why is Francisco Alvarez consistently batting 9th? There's so many problems that and then the bullpen decisions. It's like sometimes Buck Showalter is forcing guys down our throat. It's just the best way to put it. Thank God we got David Robertson. Thank God. Because really, without David Robertson and Adam Ottavino, we'd suck. We would be a lot worse than 30-30. So I think Billy Epler, like this series against the Braves, it's going to be a lot because right now we're 5.5 back. And I know it's only June. But we could get buried in June if we get swept. And it's not even a hot take to say if we get swept. We just got swept by the Toronto Blue Jays. How do we trust this team? They win 3 straight against the Phillies, lose 3 straight against the Toronto Blue Jays. What are we doing? And then Buck, also another thing about Buck in the Toronto Blue Jays series caught my attention again against Vladdy. Like, I get Vladdy is not having the best year, but Vladdy's still Vladdy. So, I mean, Buck Showalter stuck in his ways. We got to start putting Buck Showalter, I think, on the hot seat after this series if we get roughed up. Now, if we take 2 out of 3, he bought himself a little bit of time. But if we lose 2 out of 3 or we get swept, if we get swept, I think we're really going to hear Buck's job get called for, not just by guys like me, but by actual media members. I think we're going to hear it because let's be real, we haven't really heard it at all. The one thing that hasn't been talked about is Buck being on the hot seat. Like us Mets Twitter guys talk about it, but we don't really hear it talked about. Why? What has Buck Showalter proved? He's a great regular season manager. He's won multiple managers of the year before. Now, in the beginning of the year, I would have said, let's give Buck a little time. I gave Buck a little time. And we still suck. We're still in the same spot that we were in. Every time we get it, we take 3 steps forward, we take 5 steps back. So, we were just 3.5 games back just last week. All we had to do was take 2 out of 3 against the Toronto Blue Jays. 2 out of 3. And then we had an opportunity to walk into Atlanta, sweep them, and then we would be a half game back. But now we're not even confident that we can take 1 out of 3 against the Atlanta Braves. Because what have the Mets proved? Yeah. Mets suck. But let's talk about Lindor, though, in serious. Like, what are we going to do with Lindor? Because, I mean, obviously we don't want to bench him. Obviously we're not going to cut him or trade him. Like Sunny Days in Flushing said, if you're a guy who thinks we should trade Lindor or cut Lindor, you're out of your goddamn mind. You're an idiot. Lindor is proved he can bounce back from slumping. He was terrible in 2021. He should have been an all-star in 2022. And then, this year he's slumping, but he still does have 10 home runs. He still does have a lot of RBIs. And he's still, and when you compare him to other shortstops around the league, his numbers actually aren't that bad considering the other shortstops around the league suck too. But he still is the $340 million. The $340 million man. Now, the contract, cool. $340 million man, honestly, ain't that bad, guys. That's not a bad contract. So anybody who says it's a bad contract, no. But I don't care about that. I care about who Lindor was. Lindor was a 4-time All-Star with Cleveland. Lindor was a guy, I know it was the juice ball era, but 33 consecutive seasons of 30-plus home runs. He had 26 home runs last year. It's just 4 away from 30. So I'm not saying he won't ever eclipse 30 home runs again. He'll definitely be able to eclipse 30 home runs again. 100%. He has 7 more years here. He certainly will. He might this season. He's already at 10. So if he gets 5 more in June, he definitely can reach 30 this year. But Lindor, listen, he still has a lot of time to turn this season around. 100%. He just got to start getting it going a little bit sooner rather than later. Because we don't want his first 2 out of 3 years to be just the best. I don't know what the best way to put it. Probably just bad. Bad 2021. So far, bad 2023. He had a great 2022. Now he has a lot of time to make it into a great 2023. 100%. Like I said, he hits 5 home runs in June. He might hit 30 on the year. But the thing is, we didn't bring Francisco Lindor just to hit 215 and 30 home runs. He's not Kyle Schwarber. He's Francisco Lindor. He's a guy who hit 270 last year. He's a guy who finished top 10 in MVP voting multiple times with Cleveland. He was 9th in MVP voting last year. Whatever is going on with Lindor right now, it's just not Lindor. I'm not sure. Listen, I'm not saying there's stuff going on in his head or anything. I'm just saying baseball-wise, this is not Lindor. He's swinging at terrible pitches. He's striking out more than ever. He's not getting on base at all. His on-base percentage is less than 300. So this is not the same Lindor. Now, would I want anybody else as my shortstop? No, because I'm confident in Francisco Lindor to play like the best shortstop in baseball. It's just we haven't seen that all year. And we have to start seeing it. Now, what I'm saying is, don't bench him. Don't cut him. You can't cut him. One, that's stupid. Cut him. You can't trade him. Why? Because he's Francisco Lindor. But you can move him down in the lineup. Is Buck too scared to move this guy down in the lineup? Just because he's the $340 million man, it doesn't mean he has to hit third. We can move Francisco Lindor down in the lineup. We can give him a day off. And yes, like Sunny Days in Flushing said, let him build back up into that number 3 spot. So now I'm not giving up on him, but I'm still going to throw concerns. I am concerned. It's definitely concerning when, it's June and he's still hitting below 215 and has an on-base percentage well under 300. He was brought here to be a superstar. And quite frankly, he hasn't been that yet. So now a lot of time to turn it around. But I'm looking at Buck. I'm looking at Lindor. I'm looking at Alonso. I'm looking at a lot of these guys. I'm looking at Max Scherzer. I'm looking at Justin Verlander. Someone's got to step up. Because as much as I want to say Lindor, this team wasn't built to just rely on Francisco Lindor. It was built to rely on Buck Showalter. It was built to rely on the $40 million pitcher, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. It was built to rely on the guy who's hit 40-plus home runs numerous times in just 4 seasons, Pete Alonso. So I could say Lindor all I want, but at the end of the day, it's the whole freaking team that sucks. The whole team. And if that really, you line up the whole entire team sucking and you make that tree and the root, so we're going backwards. This is the top of the tree. This is the bottom of the tree. We're going backwards, upsides down. There we go. The root of the tree, the root of the problems, Billy Epler. Daniel Vogelback, Billy Epler traded for. Tyler Naquin last year, remember that trade? Billy Epler. Michael Givens, that was Billy Epler. So you look at all these problems, a lot of them stem to Billy Epler too. Mets got issues. They got to figure it out. When you have a payroll of over $360 million and you're 30-30, 5.5 games back of first place in June. And like I said, the expectations that they have, having not just the highest payroll in baseball by a little bit, they have the highest payroll in baseball by a lot of bit. A whole lot. Tripling some other teams, quadrupling some other teams. You can't be 30-30. That's bad. So somebody's got to get in there, not Brody Van Wagen stealing Billy Bean's thing from the movie, throwing a chair in, being all corny. No. Either Buck Showalter has to step up and get these guys pumped up to get going, or Lindor, Alonso, Scherzer, Verlander. Mainly those 4. Brandon Nimmo even. Brandon Nimmo always talking about, I want to be the captain of the New York Mets. I want to be the captain of the New York Mets. All right. Step up in the locker room and say, we suck right now. Let's get things going, guys. This is unacceptable. You just got an 8-year deal. He's having a career year. But we got to start seeing the Mets get a leader. The Mets need a leader desperately. And as much as we all want to say Lindor, Alonso got to step up too. He's hitting below 220, hitting below 230. That's an issue. I get he's had all these home runs, but it is an issue. Batting average still does matter. Because when you think about it, you'd rather have a guy up at the plate who hits the ball 35% of the time or 33% of the time or 31% of the time rather than a guy who hits the ball 21% of the time. So batting average still does matter a little bit. But it's not just Lindor, like I said. It's all these other guys too. The Mets have a huge amount of problems. Their ERA, their team ERA, 4.49. Our starters suck. They're too inconsistent. Max Scherzer, he might be back. But outside of that, Kodai Senga has been up and down, up and down, up and down. Like, what is going on with this pitching staff? Tyler McGill, David Robertson already got sent down. Cookie Carrasco, I mean, he didn't have a bad start his last couple starts. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Biggest series of the year. Hopefully we can catch up some ground in Atlanta. Hopefully we can at least take 2 out of 3. And if we don't, I think we really have to start having the conversation about, that guy, Buck Showalter. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. Actually, let's get right into Aaron Judge. We'll talk about it a little bit. Aaron Judge might be hurt, blah, 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 blah. Toe, bang, ran right into a wall. Undoubtedly the best player in baseball. It's really fun when actually, it's not fun at all. It isn't. When the Yankees are doing good and the Mets suck, I'll admit it. It freaking sucks. It sucks. Since May 1st, the New York Yankees have been, I'll put it up right on the screen. They've been 21-11 since May 1st. So, I mean, Subway Series is coming up, so it's a good time to compare the two teams, actually. I was talking about a little bit before the show. They're kind of having similar problems to the Mets. Their pitching has kind of been inconsistent, to say the least. Nestor Cortez is going to be on the IL for a little bit. He might miss his next 2 to 3 starts. He's got over a 5-year ERA, so that's an issue right there. Garrett Cole, he had a couple starts where he got banged up a little bit, but that man remains undefeated, had a nice start against the Dodgers. And then Domingo Hermando, he had a pretty good start. He went 6 innings against the Dodgers too yesterday. So, and they kind of started off slow, but the thing is, they got it going. And then they have a man called Aaron Judge, which really helps. But outside of Judge, they have another guy called Anthony Rizzo, who's been having a great year. He's hitting over 290, OPS well over 800. Defensively, he's obviously always been one of the best first basemen in all of baseball. So he doesn't miss a beat in the field. So when you talk about the New York Yankees right now, yeah, they're in third place. But since May 1st, they've been a better team than the Tampa Bay Rays. There's no reason why you can't say that this Yankees team cannot win the AL East still. We're still in June. Just like the Mets are only 5.5 back. They have a chance to change the narrative. The Yankees, well, they are changing the narrative. They're in that mode right now. So, and then Garrett Cole too, like I said, he's been roughed up the past few starts, but he showed you he still is capable of being the best starter in the American League. Now that ERA might be a 2.9, but he's still 7-0. Still just was lights out against one of the best teams in baseball the last decade. So, you got to give props to Garrett Cole, what he's been able to do night in and not night in and night out, but every 5 nights for the Yankees. And then Aaron Judge, I'm going to talk about him a little bit, but there's really not much to talk about. Played 3 innings after he got hurt. I don't think he's going to be on the IL for a long time if he does go on the IL. It'll probably be just a 10-day IL stint. And I don't think he'll be on the IL. I think it's a couple days off, day to day or something like that. There's nothing that official that came out just yet. I'm going to check my phone and make sure that I am not mistaken. Yeah, so far nothing. No update on Aaron Judge. But yeah, I wouldn't be too worried. I mean, it's a toe and it's Aaron Judge. So, but let's talk about Garrett Cole a little bit though, because I didn't mention him. He's actually got a 2.82 ERA. That's my bad. But Garrett Cole, I mean, he's been like probably the Yankees MVP this year, arguably. So, arguably the Cy Young of the American League. Definitely top 3, I'd say, with what he's been able to do and provide for the Yankees. 7-0, hasn't lost a game for them. And like I said, that's what you need. The Mets haven't had that guy. The Mets haven't had a Garrett Cole. The Yankees, obviously, have a Garrett Cole. And it's also clutch when, Carlos Rodon hasn't pitched a single game for the Yankees. And Nestor Cortez, who's been not the same Nestor Cortez of last year, and now he's going on the IL. And then Domingo Germán, And then Severino, he obviously got roughed up his last start. So Garrett Cole, he's arguably been the Yankees MVP this year. And, they're just 6 games back against Tampa Bay. And let's check when the Yankees play Tampa Bay upcoming on the schedule. Hey, Leah. All right. So the Yankees, they got the Red Sox, so that should be a nice little series. And then they go to Citi Field. They don't got the Rays for a while. Wow. But considering what the Rays have been since May 1st, they've been, I think, just 3 games over 500 now. And then the Yankees, obviously, 21-11, 10 games over 500. You're confident. You're confident when you take 2 out of 3 in LA, in their home. You're confident when your young shortstop, even though he's hitting 190, still comes up clutch in a big spot multiple times against the LA Dodgers in LA. You're confident. You're confident when Domingo Germán gives you a start he gave you. You're confident when Garrett Cole still showed that he's capable of being the best starter. And then the bullpen, too. Michael King, I mean, he looked pretty good. Clay Holmes, he's looking good. He's back. So, I mean, let's see what this Yankees team can do over the next couple of weeks. Boston, and then, next week in Citi Field. Might be in attendance for that one, too. So, it'll be pretty fun. Hopefully the Yankees lose. And if Judge goes on the IL, I wouldn't mind. Obviously, I wouldn't pray for him to get hurt, but I wouldn't mind him give him an off day when they play the Mets, because he kills the Mets in Citi Field. Gonna take a quick break though. Gonna pop up a quick vid, and we're gonna bounce right back to NBA Finals, talk about the Knicks, then talk a little bit of football, and then we'll get out of here.
And even after Ohtani, what do you think? What do you think about Steve Cohen as a whole? Like, you think this guy? What do you think he did for this Mets franchise so far?
Yeah, I think starting with the first half of the question, Otani's certainly on the table. The biggest barrier in the Mets' way from them landing him isn't dollars, but it really is just preference. If Otani still has the same preference that he had entering the MLB, which is West Coast, then the likelihood of him landing with the Mets isn't as strong as, say, the Dodgers, who, while the Dodgers might not be able to put up the highest dollar for Ohtani the way that the Mets would, it wouldn't be shocking if Ohtani, say, took a slight pay cut from the Dodgers versus what the Mets offer would be. They weren't drastically different to stay in LA, that area, to be with the Dodgers and be on the championship winning type organization still. So that is the biggest hurdle in landing him. But rest assured, we've all known by now that when Cohen has his eyes set on someone, he's going to do everything physically and humanly possible to acquire them. And, I don't expect a Carlos Correa, broken ankle type situation 2.0 here with Ohtani. So rest assured, if the interest is there, which we all know it is, the Mets will at minimum do their due diligence and give a valiant effort in landing him. And should they not, especially, then you look at the Manny Machado. I think either way, the Mets are in a strong position to land one of the top free agents next year. It's just a matter of if it's going to be the best player in baseball, or is it going to be one of the best third basemen in the game? So, yeah, we'll discuss that more as we get closer to the trade deadline, depending on where the Angels are at and things of that nature. But, yeah, they will certainly be involved. And to answer the second part, yeah, Cohen, I mean, everything that I say, by now, right? He's just done an amazing job as Mets owner over the past couple of years. I had the privilege of meeting him a couple months ago, back in early January at a Mets event, and he was just, exactly what you would expect him to be. I mean, just the fact that he goes so out of his way constantly to interact with fans, people, media, just really showing that the only difference between you and I and Cohen is the dollars on our net worth. Aside from that, the same interest level is there when it comes to being a diehard true Mets fan. That is what was the focal point in him buying the team in the first place. It wasn't because of this being a superior investment long term. No, it's because he wants to bring championships to Queens as a desperate fan, and I don't blame him. I would do the exact same thing if I had the money to back it and if I were in his shoes. So, everything he's done from top down, not only in the organization with the amount of funding for the roster, which is right around double more that he's spent on guaranteed contracts alone since he became an owner, which is around $1.4 billion, than the next closest owner in baseball over the past couple of years, which is Steinbrenner of the Yankees, around $880 million. Aside from investing a record amount of dollars over that period of time with on-field product, it's off the field. It's with the coaching staff with Showalter, Epler, the hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars that he's also spending in the analytics department, which is something that the Mets didn't even have when Cohen became owner. It's from the smallest things to the biggest things, the medical staff. I mean, everything and everyone that is currently a part of the Mets organization is making this look night and day from what it was just a couple years ago. And it just shows you that, yeah, having a lot of money certainly helps, but knowing how to properly allocate it into every single area of need and just to give you superiority over the next club as a rival, either in the division or just going for a championship as a whole, will certainly help do wonders for a team. And that is the case with Cohen and these New York Mets. Beyond grateful to have him as.
Yo, we are back. I don't even have my hat on. Jesus. I gotta put my hat on, cover up my head hair. So let's talk about this NBA Finals game last night. Because, yeah, the NBA Finals are pretty fun. Who doesn't like... I'm gonna wipe off the chocolate off my face, too. Because I ate a snack on that break. So Nikola Jokic dropped 40 points last night. Obviously, it wasn't enough. So Miami Heat tied it up 1-1. They win 111-108. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Gabe Vincent, a trio that the Miami Heat really needed last night because they all went off 20-plus points each. Jimmy Butler didn't go off as much as Bam and Gabe. Gabe Vincent in particular, I think he was the player of the night. Some people would say that it was Bam Adebayo because of what he provided on the defensive end too. But at the end of the day, Nikola Jokic still dropped. I mean, the Heat don't have anybody that can contain Jokic, but they just let Jokic beat him last night. They contained everybody else. Besides Jokic, everybody else on the Nuggets was held under 20 points, including Jamal Murray. And I proclaim Jamal Murray and Jokic as an all-time great duo, potentially, if they can get the job done. Now, I still think the Nuggets get the job done. I think the Nuggets get the job done in at least 6 games. But what the Heat did last night, I think it shows you that they can play with the Nuggets. Because game 1, obviously, it was all Denver. But in game 2, it wasn't all any team. It was Miami showing you and Eric Spoelstra showing you that they ain't going down easy. In fact, they know that they can win this series. Now, some people think that they can win this series, but Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler, he legitimately, obviously there's sometimes when, in sports where that some teams just probably know that they are not going to get the job done. Like the Knicks, if they were to play, like when the Knicks were down 3-1. Like we all knew deep down that there was no shot that they're coming back. Like Jimmy Butler legitimately thinks he can win this series. Kyle Lowry legitimately thinks that he can win this series. Bam Adebayo, Eric Spoelstra. These are guys that have been to NBA Finals, and Spoelstra and Kyle Lowry who have rings. So I want to see a good series. It would be awesome for a 7-game series. Now, I have no fan interest in this. Well, rooting interest, I should say. Obviously, I'm a fan of it if I'm watching it, but I wouldn't say I'm rooting for one team in particular. I'm rooting probably for players. I want to see Jokic go off. I want to see Jimmy Butler go off. I would love to see a 7-game series and see an all-time great game, have an all-time great series. Because obviously, coming into the NBA Finals, going into the conference finals, it's going to be the Lakers and the Celtics, blah, blah, blah. And then it's the Heat and the Nuggets. And then everybody is probably like, all right, well, it's not going to succeed as much, blah, blah, blah. But no, when you think about it, the prior beef that they had, Jokic and Butler, Jokic brothers and the whole entire Miami Heat team a couple years ago when Jokic basically, who was it? Was it Marcus Morris, who he just absolutely trucked? And then obviously the Jokic brothers were ready to beat the crap out of Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. So they have some prior history there.
And then Jokic, I mean, I think he might be the most fun basketball player to watch in the game. Everyone says John Morant, John Morant, John Morant. Everyone will say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's fun to watch. No, it's Jokic. When you have a guy 7 foot plus, just pulling up from beyond the arc, just draining threes, then backing down guys in the paint, making wicked passes. He only had like 4 assists last night, I think, but could have seen him do a little bit better on there. But, you know, he was the second player in NBA history to record a triple-double in his first ever NBA Finals. Like, Nikola Jokic already won multiple MVPs. You could have said he could have won another MVP this year. But, I mean, Joel Embiid did go off, so well-deserved. But, like, Jokic is an all-time great. And if he wins an NBA Finals, I mean, we got to talk about him as an all-time great, legitimately. One of the best big men of all time. The way that he plays the game, the way that he affects the game. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. is great. Jamal Murray is great. But a lot of their shots are open because of Nikola Jokic. So Jokic he's changing the game. You know, we might see more teams try to emulate this style of play from their center. A big man who can create the game. A post playmaker. That's what you want. So it's going to be interesting to see what this series ends up playing out to be, whether it's 6 games, 7 games, or even 5 games. But I think Miami did show that it probably won't be a 5-game series or a 6-game series. It might go 7 games with the way that they played last night. Gabe Vincent and, you know, they're deep. They're deep. Imagine they had Tyler Hero. That would be really fun because that would really make it interesting having a lights-out shooter on the other end for Miami. They already have multiple lights-out shooters, but adding another one. But defensively, obviously, we all know Hero kind of struggles there. But since we're talking basketball, I think it's a good time to bring up the New York Knicks again, since I haven't brought them up in a long, long time on my show. I'm going to talk about the Knicks, and then I'm going to get out of here. Going to be talking football later this week. So the Knicks, I'm going to spend not too much time on them, probably like 5-10 minutes right now. But the Julius Randle trade rumors, I'm going to predict that he doesn't go anywhere. Let's be real, guys. Leon Rose, Tom Thibodeau, they love their guy, Julius Randle. They love him more than ever. But what we really got to look at is how are we going to build this team around Jalen Brunson? And I think another topic should be, is this team ever going to win anything with Julius Randle on the roster? We're with Tom Thibodeau. Because now that I'm thinking one of them got to go. Because we got to get a new coach to tell Randle that you ain't that guy, or we got to have Randle go, because Tibbs, when Randle was off the court, you saw the offense at times. It flies. It flies. Obi Toppin in games, everyone always says, this is the biggest thing that I hate, though. Everyone always says, oh, well, you know, if you get rid of Julius Randle, who's going to be your starting power forward? Why not Obi Toppin? Like, can we stop talking? Like, can we stop acting like Obi Toppin is just a scrub? Obi Toppin, he started multiple games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in his career. Oh, this is 5 times as a starter this season. In his 5 starts this season, he averaged 21.8 points per game. As a starter in his career, I'm going to get it right now on the stat pad. The stat pad. Obi Toppin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 games. In 15 career starts, Obi Toppin has averaged 20.8 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 3.1 assists per game as a starter. So I don't want to hear that Obi Toppin cannot start when he averages over 20 a night. So why can't we trade Julius Randle? Oh, because we won't get enough value. Dude, someone's going to cough up value. Dude, I hate to break it to a lot of NBA fans, but there's a lot of general managers that are complete idiots. We always see people get ripped off in trades. The Knicks can rip someone off with Julius Randle. They look at him and see a guy who was a two-time All-NBA player the last 4 years. How did the Knicks not win? We could win with that. We could fix that. You know some teams out there. There's one team out there that's thinking that probably. At least one? You telling me there's not? So Julius Randle, I mean, I don't think he's going to go. But if he were to go, I wouldn't be like, oh, we have to find another 20 points per game out of our freaking power forward and 10 assists. No, the offense would be much more smoother. What if we get 5 points per night more, 5 more points per night from Obi Toppin, 5 more points per night from RJ Barrett, 3 more points per night from Jalen Brunson, a couple more points per night from Emmanuel Quickly? Because you're telling me Julius Randle wasn't holding those guys back when he's dribbling down in the paint, backing guys down, and then jumping up in the air and trying to make his unorthodox style passes that usually just that just end up in turnovers? That would help this team losing that style of play, because we saw it when he's off the court. Jalen Brunson, when he's with Obi Toppin, a power forward, just Obi Toppin. You saw how good this team could be. The offensive explosion that they have, the fast break points that they provide when Julius Randle is off the court, the defense that they play when Julius Randle is off the court is much better. The New York Knicks are better when Julius Randle is off the court. So just by getting rid of Julius Randle, in my opinion, makes the New York Knicks better. I get it. We have to replace his stats. But by taking him away, it improves the other players' stats on the roster, which would ultimately replace his points and his rebounds and his assists. Because his stats, when you look at him on a sheet of paper, you're like, wow, this guy has a power forward averaging over 25 a night. All right, that's something. And then you watch him play, and he dribbles up for a layup, jumps up in the air, does a spinny win-win, and then kicks it out to a guy in the corner. But then that defender deflects it, steals it, and then it ends up in a dunk on the other end. And then 4 guys rush down the court, and there's one guy on the Knicks who's not running down on defense. Oh, and it's Julius Randle, the guy who turned the ball over. No, his ankle. Yeah, his ankle. Well, Jalen Brunson's ankle was hurt too. Oh, but he had ankle surgery. So I don't care. Because he did it 2 years ago in the playoffs. He did it this year in the playoffs. He proved that the New York Knicks will never, ever win anything with Julius Randle and Tom Thibodeau a part of this team. They got to get rid of one this offseason. They have to. And I don't think it's going to be Tibbs. So it should be Randle. But at the end of the day, we'll probably just end up keeping both, which just sucks. All right, but NBA Finals prediction, since my prediction kind of just went into shambles when I said the Nuggets would sweep the Heat. So new prediction, Nuggets in 7, because I think the Heat proved me and a lot of people that they ain't going down easy. Also, obviously the Mets got to turn it around. They got to get it going. Let's hit some comments before I do get out of here. These nuts from Zinspit. Shout out Zinspit. Bobby, go Mets. Morning Brew Sports. Facts. Yes, Julius Randle off this team. This team's better, but probably going to end up with both. Shout out Morning Brew Sports, by the way. They're taking a little break, but when they were doing Knicks Morning Brew every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they were really good content creators, a lot of good interviews with a lot of good people. Make sure you check them out. Subscribe to their channel. Morning Brew Yankees is still running right now. And they got Morning Brew Jets up now too, which is fire. So make sure you check out those guys. They're really good guys. Always got good YouTube always got good YouTube lives going. So yeah, I'm probably going to pop out of here though. I'm definitely going to pop out of here. Hopefully the Mets can get things going against the Atlanta Braves, because if they don't, I think we have to put Buck Showalter on the hot seat. There's just no way that Buck Showalter cannot be on the hot seat. If we get swept or lose 2 out of 3, you got to start looking to make changes. At least maybe move Lindor down to the lineup. I talked about that. Why not do that? And then the pitching is ultimately the second biggest problem. Mets 3 problems: Buck, pitching, and then Lindor and the other guys in the lineup. Really lack a leader right now. Hopefully the Mets can get going. Big 3-game series against the Braves. They're probably going to wet the bed because that's what the Mets do. Yankees, they're going to look to get going too. They got a series against the Red Sox coming up. They got a series against Seattle coming up. They got, obviously, the Mets coming up too. So we're going to be seeing that in a little bit. And then, obviously, Garrett Cole looking like the best pitcher in baseball still as he shut down the Dodgers. 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers too. That's in LA. In LA, which is very hard to do. So, going against the White Sox, Rodon's old team, but obviously Rodon hasn't pitched a game, so that kind of sucks. But I'm going to head out of here. Hopefully Julius Randle gets traded. Peace.